Well, we'll finish out our tribute to Young Guns this episode with a visit with a young man that, well, he has won championships. He has won big time titles over in the 24 hours of Le Mans, all the way to the Rolex 24. And just this past weekend, he was part of the winning combination in the GTD Pro Series at the Mobile One Sebring 12 Hours, brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. We're talking about Jordan Taylor, who joins us now. Jordan, congratulations. I mean, it is hard to believe or to fathom, quite honestly, that you have such a rich winning resume at such an early age.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I don't consider myself a young gun anymore. I appreciate you including me in that title. But yeah, I've been very fortunate to be aligned with some amazing teams and corporations over the years, and I've been in good equipment at these big events to put myself in a good position to win these races. So you could do the Rolex 24, the Sebring 12 hour, 50 or 100 times and never win it. So I've been very fortunate to have things go my way over the years, and this week was no exception. A lot of things went our way to get this win.
I think that's an understatement, my friend. I mean, you take the lead 56 minutes into this 12-hour marathon, and then you continue by just dominating. You and your teammates, you guys put your foot on the throat of your competition. Were there any close moments?
Yeah, I think there were. I mean, we didn't qualify that well. We were third in class, I think eighth or ninth in the overall GT classification. And then kind of once it went green, Antonio was able to drive up to the lead. And even when if you look at the results and us leading every hour, you'd think we dominated. But most of those portions of when we were leading, it was always within, 2 to 5 seconds. So it was always tight. I think we fell back to third for a portion of the race, right in the middle. The BMW was strong. They had good top speed. So our main concern was if we lost track position, it would be difficult for us to get back around them. So the name of the game for us was maintaining that lead and track position. So it was all down to strategy and executing the pit stops. And, it came down to the last 2 stops where, our guys made a great strategy call to keep us out front and give us about a 10-second lead after that last stop. And that extended the lead to like 16 seconds over the Lamborghini. And they were, coming back to us at the end. They were a bit quicker than us. I think they ended up 8 seconds back. So it was definitely stressful watching Antonio, but yeah, it was an amazing race. It was great calls by Corvette Racing, all day long to keep us out front, because we didn't have the fastest car, but we just didn't make any mistakes and made all the right calls, and that's what it took to, win the big race.
Jordan, the Taylor pedigree is well known and well documented. Not only your brother, but of course, all of the success that you and he enjoyed at the DPI level that was dominated by and continues to be contested by Wayne Taylor Racing. So I think the easy way to put it is you grew up a track brat. What did you learn in the garage watching your dad field cars in endurance contests?
Yeah, I think, as you said, we grew up around sports car racing, so we were never, IndyCar or Formula One driven. It was always sports car and endurance racing. So I think if you look at the way I drive and my driving style, it's definitely more of a sports car and endurance racing style. I'm definitely not the most flashy guy making the cool passes or anything like that, always on edge. I think my driving style is quite calm and, maybe a little bit boring at times, but in these endurance races, like if you take the 12 hours of Sebring, you spend 8 hours driving around, staying in contention of the win, not necessarily taking big risks to be in the lead, but taking calculated risks to stay in the front, so that when you do get to the last couple hours, that's when you can take those risks and push the limit. So I think that's what I learned just being around my dad all those years, is that, a 24-hour race is never won in the first, 16 to 18 hours. Any little mistake is, if it's your own mistake, you'll be kicking yourself, all year long if you're trying to make up a tenth of a second on that lap, where that tenth of a second is not going to matter if you end up in the garage for 4 minutes fixing the problem that you made. So I think that was probably the biggest lesson I ever learned, following my dad around.
You talk about you may not be flashy, you may not be the guy that makes that daring, F1 Max Verstappen type pass, or some of the other people in other disciplines, and yet, if you look up the word compromise, the fact that you have to share the seat, especially in these extra distance races, with more than just yourself, I would think that requires a certain flexibility and a certain amount of compromise in terms of the style that you want to display in the cockpit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, thankfully, my full-time teammate is Antonio Garcia, and thankfully we have very similar driving styles. And so it's probably not the outright fastest for any one of us, but over a 12 or 24 hour, it's going to be the best for everyone. So that's just part of sports car racing. That's what kind of makes it interesting. I know when we get guys from IndyCar or NASCAR or Formula One, it's weird for them to share the car and sit out for a practice session and watch the car develop from a setup point of view, and then jump into the next session and it be a completely different animal. So I think it's a fun aspect of sports car racing. I think it's a good place to learn. You learn to drive different styles. You have to adapt to different cars if it's working for someone else. So I think as a driver, you can learn a lot that way.
What's it mean to you to be one of the lead drivers for the true American sports car, that thing that's known as a Chevrolet Corvette? I mean, my gosh, whether you're a sports car fan or not, when you see that bow tie and that sleek Corvette out there competing, it makes American pride stand up and salute. What's it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's so special. I'm so proud of being a part of it, as an American driver. To be with the biggest American manufacturer in racing is everything. And I grew up, watching my dad race. He raced, Ferraris, Cadillacs, um, all sorts of sports cars. And as an American watching Le Mans every year, you always see the yellow Corvettes, and everyone talks about the yellow Corvettes. And when I went over to Le Mans, you just see the fan base that they have even in Europe, not just America. The American fan base is insane. So to be a part, it's still hard to believe again. And, I know how special it is. I know that it's a place that a lot of drivers want to be. So I definitely don't, rest and take it easy now that I am here. I know that it brings a lot of pressure, but I also put a lot of pressure on myself to keep performing and, show that I do deserve to be here. So it's been an amazing journey so far. We've won 2 championships now the past 2 years, and Daytona last year and Sebring this year. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing.
Some of the news that the Bowtie Brigade made away from the Corvettes that they field was the announcement by Hendrick Motorsports that they are going to actually take advantage of what they call the Garage 56 entry in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, not this season, but next season, and bring one of NASCAR's next-gen cars as part of the Chevrolet Brigade. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I don't know how much of a conversion it's going to be from, a cup car. I don't see how a cup car would finish a 24-hour just from a brakes point of view and things like that. I think it's going to be super interesting to see them develop it into whatever it's going to be. It's going to be cool to have that crossover to bring a lot of NASCAR eyes to sports car racing, especially the biggest sports car race of the year. And yeah, I think if anything, they're probably going to have to add a couple brake markers down the Mulsanne straight, because I think they'll be braking a little bit earlier than all of us.
Well, many, many years ago, when Big Bill France Sr. was still alive, he cut a deal with the folks and the organizers of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and full-bodied, those big, just balky stock cars from the 1980s competed in that twice around the clock endurance race in Le Mans, France. And like you said, they didn't fare that well, but they've been there, they've done it, and they've got the T-shirt. What's left on your bucket list of things that you want to accomplish, my friend?
Oh man, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm a sports car guy, so I love kind of where I am. Obviously, every year we go to Daytona and races like Sebring and Petit Le Mans, those ones you want to win every year if you can. So trying to add those up. I think one thing I've been trying to do for the past few years is do a NASCAR road course race. I think that would be a lot of fun. So I've been working the last couple of years to try get in one. So maybe with the new rules, with the new cars, could make it a little bit easier to jump in one. But I think that's probably top of my list right now.
Well, maybe you ought to call Mr. H and cut a deal.
Yeah.
I'll share with you my knowledge about sports car racing, but you have to share with me an entry at a road course so that I can try my hand at the next gen car. How about that?
That would be a good deal. I would be down for that.
Listen, Jordan, it's always a pleasure. Congratulations to you and your teammates for a well-deserved victory in the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring presented by Advance Auto Parts. And we appreciate your taking a little time to stop inside the wind tunnel today. Good luck the rest of the season.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.